You think it's hard to make a lot of money by being a rapper? Maybe, but it's much easier to lose everything when you've reached the top. Number 10. Nelly. It was the year 2000, and this singular rapper managed to place 4 of his singles in the #1 spot and then 3 more #1 albums, including his debut one, which is already diamond in the US. Nelly has sold more than 21 million albums, becoming the 4th most successful rapper in American history. Imagine the level of revenue. At that point, it would seem inexhaustible. Yet, he began to go into debt a lot into 2016. He owes the IRS more than $2.4 million. Though his fans try to get him out of debt by streaming his songs online, the IRS is considering another option, using the ticket sales he collects from his latest tour to pay off his debt. With the support from his fans, his worst nightmare may soon become only just a dream. Number 9. Bow Wow. Not many people can afford to start a career at 13. At that age, you're supposed to be interested in getting the highest score on Fortnite, not recording an album. Instead, Bow was already on his way to fame with his first release, and he didn't only dedicate himself to music, the cinema received him with open arms, and we could appreciate him in films such as Like Mike and even Fast and the Furious. Since then, it seems that from going so fast and so furious, he ended up falling into the precipice of bankruptcy. Everything seemed to be going great at that moment when he was recording with Snoop Dogg, things like That's My Name. But then everything would fall apart. Curiously enough, not because of him, but because of his offspring. It's just that justice that forced him to pay $3,000 a month to support his children, and things weren't going too well for him then, because he was only making $1,000 more than that, and he only had half that amount in the bank. Also at that time, he was hosting the 106 in Park program, but it was lifted, so technically he was unemployed and in debt. Later he was able to recover somewhat, but being so young and in his early 30s, the least we can hope for is that he can have a future like Mike. Number 8. DMX. Another curious case of someone who has a brilliant career that almost ends up ruined. Why does this happen? In 2018, this citizen named Earl Simmons was sentenced to 4 years in prison for tax evasion, having to pay almost $3 million to the Treasury. But this was not just a setback. Earl, 46, had been in trouble with the law since the 1990s, and the prosecutors were able to prove that he had been trying to defraud the state since 2006. He had already been in prison before, and had also had problems with drugs. That is, DMX had 2 hits at the top of the charts in the same year, being the only rapper to do so, and sold millions of copies throughout his career, but the money didn't stop going to hell. And only for him not paying his tax obligations. Is this why one of his most popular songs is It's Dark and Hell is Hot? Number 7. Benzino. Benzino is one of those cases as an artist who transcends by negative marketing. The first thing he did in his career as a singer was to confront the police with his lyrics. And then, when his band's albums were not really a relative success, he got into a fight with Eminem to gain notoriety. Of course, he didn't do it from the stage in some battle, but by participating in the staff of a magazine, The Source, in which rap artists were qualified with microphones. That's how several disputes and discussions took place that made the blonde rapper make Benzino's name known, and in a way, have helped him in his career. But everything has an end, and the magazine's board of directors decided to fire Benzino and make peace with Eminem. It was either that or put an 8-mile restriction on him. What happened to Benzino's life? Well, he's still in trouble, but with taxes for a change, which he's been accumulating since the 90s, and now he has no one to fight with. Are you still there? Take the opportunity to like and subscribe to the video and don't even think about fast forwarding. These next rappers are examples that you should not follow, or you risk losing big. Number 6. MC Hammer. If you're a few years old, more than a millennial, the name of MC Hammer won't be unfamiliar to you. He was the first rapper to sell 10 million copies, and that number went over 30 million in a flash, leaving everyone in awe. No matter how old you are, you've probably at some point made your robot moves watching the You Can't Touch This video. But wait, that's what they would have to tell MC when he started to squander his fortune. Can't touch this would have been the magic words for the millionaire rapper not to hire over 200 people that cost him over $500,000 a month. Not to build a mansion with baseball fields, tennis courts, 2 swimming pools, a theater, Italian marble floors, all for over $30 million. Or to have helicopters, a jet, a limousine, a Lamborghini, and even 18 horses. Also, some legal claims showed up, especially from Rick James, that did their thing so good old Hammer almost ended up ruined, but if you ask him, he has no regrets. Number 5. Ja Rule. If you had to define this rapper with just one word, it would certainly be controversial. His style is similar to that of Tupac or DMX, higher up on this list, and it was with the latter that he has had some tasty disputes and confrontations. But not content with this, he has also minced his words from issuing homophobic comments in public. But do you think those were really his problems? Not at all. In fact, perhaps that's what's given him some more popularity beyond the successes he achieved with his music. In fact, even the punch he threw at the man in Toronto didn't mark the end of his career, even though he hasn't been able to set foot in Canada since 2003. Things got really tough for him when in 2007 he was sentenced to prison for gun and drug possession. Then while he was in prison, he got another charge of tax evasion. What is it with these kids? Nobody gives their bill to the poor consumer? Around that time, Ja Rule had a conversion to religion. We hope God helps him a little. Maybe he could use a miracle to close his pockets. Number 4. Exhibit. It would be unfair to say that Exhibit is just a rapper when we have seen him do so many things. Do you remember his amazing performances on Pimp My Ride? Hell, I remember that more than any of his lyrics. He was also in several movies, including 8 Miles, X-Files, and XXX2. But really, nothing tells us more about Exhibit than his memes. I'm sure you've used this one. The problem is that this almost founder of gangster rap as a music genre also made his own against the tax authorities. In 2010, the tapper owed no less than $1 million in taxes, and to this day, it's not likely that he has liquidated them, as he tried to file for bankruptcy twice and was denied. Apparently, his problems began with the cancellation of Pimp My Ride, so it's time for him to take the wheel once and for all. Number 3. Young Buck. It is not always success and fortune that makes you fall into the trap of drugs. Sometimes from drugs you go straight to fame, composing, and rapping. The problem with Young Buck, who inherited his nickname from his time as a drug dealer, is that he never really gave up cocaine, and that ended up being a money problem. He publicly confronted his gang members, the G Units, and in 2012 he ended up serving a year and a half in jail. But before that, he had already had problems when his assets were auctioned off for, guess what? Tax debts. His excuse, valid by the way, is that since he had always sold drugs before, he was not used to declaring his earnings. Brutal honesty that we appreciate, even if it didn't do him much good. Number 2. Fat Joe. Do you want another tax evasion case? For not paying his taxes between 2007 and 2010, this successful rapper was convicted, but he settled by pleading guilty and reducing the charges to only 2 counts of tax evasion in those years. Joe made almost $3.3 million, resulting in a debt of $718,000. Fortunately, he paid off the debt on time, reducing his sentence from 2 years to 4 months in prison. And he seemed to have not learned his lesson. He again made his move in 2016, this time for over $1 million in tax evasion for 2014. Apparently, Joe's fat part is really in his tax debts. Number 1. 50 Cent. The American rapper 50 Cent had a fortune worth $155 million until he filed for bankruptcy and was sentenced to pay $25 million for 2 separate cases. Curtis James Jackson III was one of the highest paid artists in the world with the release of his album Get Rich or Die Tryin' in 2003. During his teenage years, he even sold drugs, and in 2000 he was shot 9 times during a gunfight. One of the bullets hit him in the mouth and it affected his speech, which became his trademark as a rapper and led him to stardom. His outrageous expenses could have led any rapper into ruin, such as the $5,000 a month he pays to maintain the garden of his house, or the 7 cars he keeps in his garage that are valued over $500,000. The mansion that costs him $72,000 to maintain has a monthly mortgage of $17,000, and the price he pays for insurance is $13,000. His house in question has 37 bathrooms and 5 jacuzzis. Probably when he was poor, there was always a bathroom occupied in his house. In 2013 and 2014, he nearly lost $10 million due to his clothing business and adult film industry. And on top of that, he was also sentenced to pay $7 million to Lastonia Leviston, a woman who sued him for broadcasting a pornographic video of her without her consent. It's not clear to us, after knowing all this, whether 50 Cent wants to get rich or die trying, or die with the appearance of riches. Do you agree with our rankings? We would love to get your opinion in the comments. Give us a like if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell so we can let you know about our upcoming videos. We upload new videos very often. We hope to see you next time.